Hey folks, back again with another live coding session. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. Let me grab my to-do board real quickly. There we go. So where did we leave the code base? I was struggling with finding a fuzzy matching algorithm because on the one hand we have the list of games as the Groovy database knows them, and on the other hand we need to be asking or sending queries to How Long to Beat, the website I use to query playtimes, and they don't agree. They don't have the ubiquitous language, as they say in domain-driven design. They don't share the same titles for games. And I spent quite a bit trying to look up or trying to figure out whether we could do some kind of fuzzy matching or one like code-based algorithm that we could encode some rules, but no luck. So right now I went for the simplest thing that could possibly work, which is for every game that I know has a problem, or for every game that we don't find any hits on How Long to Beat, I just perform a lookup with the titles. So if we take a look here, slashes are often a problem, and they sometimes get replaced by the word "and." Happens for every Pokemon game in existence, apparently, because there's 2 flavors for every of those games. Also some differences in characters used, some diacritics or like accents on letters. The one has side uses, the other side does not. And I tried like writing a small algorithm to take care of all these cases, but there's inconsistencies. So, for example, Red Dead Redemption 2, you cannot look up with the Roman numeral 2, you have to use the digit 2. But for other games like Final Fantasy or Ni no Kuni 2, that approach does not work. You need to query How Long to Beat with Roman numerals and not with digits. So when I noticed that, like there were inconsistencies, I figured that I had no chance in writing or thinking of a general algorithm, rather than trying to look something up. If you don't find anything, changing strategies and trying again. But I didn't want to go to that route just yet. So let's get rid of this. What we do now is the simplest thing, which could possibly work, and which is using a white list or a black list, or the cases we know that have trouble or problems. I just have an explicit list of them and the fixes on how to fix those titles. We did this in REPL or in F# Interactive last time. So now I would like to quickly start off this session by moving all this code to the production, or to the production files at least. And maybe then start looking at how we will sum up every playtime so we get totals. That would be interesting. So let's go back to the task board. We're still working on the matching search results with games. We finished like the algorithm, but now I want to import our algorithm into the production code base. So let's give that a try. The thing that has to move here is actually just one function, a clean function, and it takes the title as a string and it returns the cleaned title as a string. And there's only one place where we use it, which is right before we do the query to How Long to Beat. We scrub the title. So I think might be a bit overkill to provide or have this function live in its own separate module, but maybe in the future this might evolve. And I don't think it's like How Long to Beat specific or Groovy specific, which are the modules we have right now. So I'm thinking we should maybe, I will go for the new module approach. So let me add a new module. It's something that cleans, or something with all the cleaning logic. So I'm just going to call it Scrubber, because it scrubs titles. There we go. Just going to... actually, it's not the... it's a very pathetic module, actually. It only has these 3 lines. Yeah, it's just a lookup in a dictionary. If you find something cool, we have a hit and we need to clean it. If we don't, we just provide or send back the title we got as input, because no cleaning has to be done. I'm not going to hard code this list in there, because later on I want to like read that from a file or something like that. It doesn't have to be in the module code itself. So I think this is actually it. This might be interesting as well to put in our runner or our main program right now. So I'm just gonna drop that here for now. Yes, and we need scrubber.cleanWidth. So yeah, that should work. And let's plug it in right here. So that should work as the same as in the REPL. We have some tests, and I'm gonna quickly port those tests to our unit tests as well. Find matches maybe also something we might have to extract here. I think that's also still only in the REPL. But let's first move these unit tests. So I'm just gonna write a new module, sure. Module rubbing tests. Let's wrap those in a fact. How do you do the sentences as... Okay, it's those backticks. Okay. Already forgot. So let's go. Let's wrap those in a unit test. Scrubs. Dirty titles, which is the second case we have here. And we have another case. We don't do anything in the case of a clean title. So scrubs dirty titles and leaves already clean titles intact. And this comes from the scrubber module. Come on. I have no idea what's happening. But my Visual Studio is crashing. Speaking of Visual Studio, I tried JetBrains Rider and I have some interesting results to share. Maybe I'll do that when I moved all the code over. Or actually now is a perfect time because we are waiting on the build and the test run. Long story short, Rider for F6 is amazing. Faster build times, much better refactoring than Visual Studio Sharper. But there's a big but, or a showstopper for me at least, and that's what you see here. The REPLs or the script files, they don't seem to work all that well. Don't tell me it doesn't crash now. But everything works and I can send my code to interactive and it all compiles and works, but syntax highlighting, as you see here, has like red squiggly lines. It doesn't know about packages that we loaded in with these NuGet directives. So as soon as I fix this, I'm going to Rider and I'm never going to look back. But because the REPL or the script file development is super broken right now, I'm not gonna bother. That's a big part of my development feedback loop. So yeah, it'll be Visual Studio, which keeps on crashing on me, as you can see. It's like picking between rain and pouring. I don't know how they say it in English, but there's not a great alternative out there right now. Maybe Ionite. I have no experience with VS Code and Ionite, or at least not when building solution and project files instead of a couple of script files. Wow, Visual Studio. Are you giving up on me? That's a shame. I have zero patience with Visual Studio after 10 years of struggling with it, so I'm just gonna kill it and try again. I say that I'm like dissing on Visual Studio, but could be that it's like ReSharper being super slow. I have no idea what's happening. So I'm not playing the blame game here, just playing the I'm a bit frustrated game. So we moved the scrubbing part. Those tests looked green. Next is to move the matching part. Sure, let's also do that. Matching is super easy. We just take the first result. I thought we were gonna have to do something more, but seeing that we had to do work on the input side, the cleaning of the queries we sent, and not on the output side, like the matching, because the search algorithm of how long to beat already does ordering on like relevantness of a search hits, so we don't actually have to do any matching ourselves. We just take the first thing that the API returns. Or at least that's what we would be doing if our tools were cooperating. Okay. Yes, no, maybe. This is beyond slow. Okay, anyway. Yes, I want to do one more thing before I verify my changes. I want to grab this find match function, which doesn't do a lot. It just takes the first search response. That's not doing a lot. That's like an exaggeration. It's doing nothing, but still. I'm thinking, should I add yet another module, or should I just dump it in the scrubbing and matching? Rename this to matching. Yeah, let's do that. Instead of scrubber, let's call this matcher. Of course, rename is not available. What? Is there a Visual Studio refactoring support? I should know better than to open menus. It's crashing again. Dear Lord, what is happening? What is eating up all my resources? Mostly Visual Studio, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna give it 10 more minutes, and if it's still crashing on me, I'll go troubleshoot offline. Oh, no stress. Okay, so renaming does not work. Cool. I'm just gonna do the refactoring manually then. Matcher. And let's drop in the match function. Why is my indenting all? Okay. I don't think we need to print out those diagnostics. So yeah, it's not doing a lot. So we have a clean with a whitelist and a find match given a game, which we don't even use. That's funny. I'm just gonna leave it in there. It's a bit of just in case programming, and in general, I don't really like it, but I'll allow it for now. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of the clean. Yes, and let's load up this new module. Matcher.fs. We still need to rename the file. When my automatic refactoring tools don't work like what we're doing here, it feels a lot less. It doesn't only feel a lot less smooth. It is a lot less smooth. I'm used to like hitting all the shortcuts for renaming and extracting into functions, stuff like that. And that actually works really well in JetBrains Rider. Oh yeah, this won't work unless we bring in the whitelist. A bit all over the place. I'm sorry for this. I'll get my shit together once Visual Studio decides not to. There we go, go. Okay, everything is compiling again. Let's quickly build to make sure quickly build. That is true, I renamed it. Okay, the tests. Let's quickly rerun them. And then we, I think, got rid of everything, or put everything that was work in progress into the production, or at least in the production code base. I say production, but I mean not the test or the REPL, not the playground, but the for real stuff. Now that I'm seeing these slow response times and crashes and hangs, maybe I have to give up REPL stuff in favor of faster feedback loops from JetBrains Rider, but not this session. I'm gonna bear with it a while longer. Okay, I think we can commit this. Let's maybe run it end to end once to make sure we haven't broken anything. So it should not crash, because for every game we have a whitelist in the problem cases. And yeah, that's about it. It should not crash. It should proceed smoothly. Takes about 30 seconds to have the full collection retrieved. We still have multi-threading issues when writing or printing to console, but I don't mind that much. That actually might... I'm thinking when we start writing like end-to-end tests, maybe that might prove to be an issue if we have multi-threading problems in the output and we use that output to write assertions. What are these crash sounds? Finished some more games this weekend, or today even. Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which is a really tough as nails game. The Caligula Effect, it's an average RPG. Right now I'm playing Crown Trick, and that's a really great roguelite. This is Crown Trick. I mean, look at that artwork. That's some amazing artwork. Yes, everything still works. And we have completed 327 games. That's a lot. Okay, everything works. Let's check it in. Moved, matching, and cleaning to the real code. Cool. I'm gonna this file I don't care about, that's the playground. I'm gonna quickly go over the other ones because my main function is getting a bit long. I don't mind not testing main functions if they're like just combining all the pieces together. And that is actually still the case here. Yeah, there's a bit of filtering, but that's almost too easy to have a bug in. That's just performing a lookup for each game. Okay, I can still live with it, but maybe I was thinking once we have minimum viable app, we can clean this up a bit and write even some like very high level, almost end-to-end, or even maybe an end-to-end test. But I was thinking of investigating the concept of hexagonal architecture and writing really fast unit tests, but for your entire system, not only for like the little pieces and the functions we've been, just as we've been doing up until now, but for almost everything except like peripherals, except reading from a file or except going over HTTP to a service. Because that might be interesting. I haven't done a whole lot of that in F# code bases. But before we do that, it makes sense in my head at least to go full circle and have the summing of the hours. So right now we can parse our collection, and based on the shelf, like every game I finished, we do the lookup on how long to beat, we get playtimes back, we do some fuzzy matching so we know we're probably working with the correct games. And now I just would like to add all those playtimes for every different category of player that how long to beat offers, and just print them out to standard IO to console, and I think that's enough. So when I say print them out for different categories. This is what I mean. Every playtime or every how long to beat entry has 3 categories. One for people that just like speed through main story, one for people that like side quests, and one for completionists or people that have way too much time to play a single video game. I have way too much time to play video games, but there's so many great titles out there that I can't spend 200 hours on just one game. So next up, let's add some numbers together. And that sounds like one of the collection functions we all love in the F# or the functional programming world. Let's maybe do some cleanup. Matching, I'm considering that done for now. Still wiring everything together, but let's add new cards. Tallying up playtimes. I already had an... Yes, I already have an exception case logged here. But let's not worry about that until we see it. Let's now just tally up playtimes. How would we do this? Let's quickly take a look at what we have here. So we have search results. Next step would be to match those search results to a single search results by applying the matcher, which is just taking the first element, but it could be more complex in the future. So game return, I'm just gonna return the original game as well as a result here, and I'm gonna pipe that through. Oh yeah. Okay. Right. So I would love to have the original game in there as well. Do I need the original game? I don't need the original game. I need it for the matcher function. Okay, I do need the original game. Sorry, I was getting confused here. But if we look at the current find match function, it doesn't do anything with it right now, but it takes the input game from our Groovy collection. So that's why I would like to also keep that context. And the way I typically do that when I'm working with pipelines, as you see right here, is so this is the game we're talking about, and we provide this as input to some kind of API, and that API returns something else. And in our .map function, we only return that result. But if you return like a tuple or something more structured, providing both your input and your output, everything else in your pipeline has access to the entire context again. So game is a single game. Result is a list of search responses. So responses is a list of games and a list of search responses. Yes, or an array at least. I was confused because I didn't see the word list anywhere, but it's an array. No, that's funny. Why is it an array? Why do I think it's an array? Because of the brackets? But I only see a list.map. Is that list syntax? No? I'm confused. Async. Do you do something like return an array? No. This looks like it's working on arrays. Parallel with throttle. Gives a throttle and a sequence, and it returns a sync of an array. So yeah, this is where the array, this is why I was confused between list and array. This little piped function here pulls us into array world instead of list world. I don't mind, they're equivalent. But anyhow, this is an array. So for every entry here, yes. So we have the game and search results. Let's parse the search results. And now I'm confused. Why is there only one map? Wait. I'm getting seriously confused here. So this was what we had originally. Yeah, this doesn't really belong here yet. This is what we have first. So responses is a... responses is a list of search responses. That's not correct. I would expect it to be a list of search responses. Oh no, the search response already contains multiple games. Okay. Oh no, this is just a string, the HTML. Okay, we need to parse it. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for this. I lost every bit of context I had. It's been a week since I seen this code, and apparently that's too much. So we have a game and the search result, which is just the HTML, and let's map that to the game. So still pipe that through and parse the search result. Is there a better way or a more idiomatic way of doing what I'm doing right now? I mean, like when you handle this context, the game, and like piping it through. Is there a better way? Instead of always extracting it with a pattern match and then recombining it with tuple? Can you do like tuple.map second? Do we have a module for tuples in F#? No? We have like first and second, but they live in the global namespace. Is there something like map first? No? Okay, never mind. We could write a map first ourselves and a map second, which is what we're doing here. We're mapping the second element in the tuple and we're leaving the first untouched. But okay, we're drifting off into random details we don't really care about. So now we have a game and a list of search results, and now we can do the matching. Yes, that's the next step. So let's just pipe it in here. So we have the game and the, what do we call them? Search results, which are the parsed search results and not the string representing the HTML. And so let's do a matcher.findMatch given the game and the search results. No? It takes a game and let's not have it work on a list, but on a sequence. There we go. Well, let's just assume this never fails. It's pretty dangerous, but I think we already crash when we have no search results or we return an error. But in theory, this could still crash if we were not careful. Why are you still not happy? Find match accepts a game, which is a groovy game. Yes. And a sequence of search results. Yeah, it's a list of search results. I'm not sure what's happening here. This value is not a function. Oh, it accepts a tuple for some reason. That's maybe a bit much. Let's just keep it in the curried world. And if we want to do that, we could get away with this. I don't know why it's on like multiple lines. Let's just see if we can. Is it the auto formatting? Could be the auto formatting. It is the auto formatting. Okay, so the comma, the tuple was throwing me off here. Okay. But at least we know why this was having a problem. Do we all still need the original game? Yeah, let's keep it consistent. So now we have it's not parsed, it's matched. So let's call them matches. This is a list of original games we have in our collection and a single search result. And if we just want to answer the question, how many hours have we spent playing video games? I think this is enough. We can just sum up every search result and we're good to go. That's exciting. Let's how will we do this? Will we do this just in the main method? go crazy? Or will we do this with a test case? Yeah, let's do that. How do we call something that tallies up the numbers? My brain is totally like, it's like static here. If when in doubt, just start writing a test. Sure. So scrubbing test, I'm not even gonna put these tests in a separate module because I have no idea of the name yet. I'm just gonna write a fact. Let's just write a test method. Can tally up numbers? Yeah, let's call it that. I'm just gonna watch my test fail first. The combination run unit test for context is not available, so I can't run a single test. In JetBrains writer, I can. Another strike for Visual Studio right now. It's weird. This is an officially supported language in the .NET ecosystem, but the tooling still has a little way to go. But it's such a fun language, I don't really care. I hope Writer picks up the slack for the script files, and then we're in the perfect world. I don't know if anyone has experience using Ionite with like solutions and solution-based code bases. I would really be interested in some experiences with that. Okay, but this test is running, so we can start playing around with tallying up numbers. I think the input for our tallying algorithm is just a list or a sequence of search results. So let's do that. Let's create a list of search results. Are we gonna do this? Yeah, let's do this test driven. So let's test that tally of nothing equals what would our output type look like? Maybe a number per category. Let's put it in a let's put it in a record type. So let's first define that type. Why not keep it in the test itself? Can you nest types into let bindings? Is tally is it only a verb or is it also a noun? I'm not a native English speaker, in case you have not noticed. What am I looking for? A thesaurus? A total, a score. Okay, so it is also a noun. We can use something that is a tally. So a tally, okay. What were the categories again? Main plus extras. We have some discriminated union somewhere in the parsing probably. So yeah, main story, main and extras, and completionist. I think I want a structured or a record type here and not just a list of things, but I'm gonna keep the exact names. But these are totally unrelated on a type level system, at least, to the union case we just saw. Yeah, let's just give them decimal types. You can have like halves in there. Off is maybe not the way to do it. I actually don't know. Can I do off? Okay, let's just make it compile so we can proceed. Thank you, formatter. For reals this time. Results is something. Let's just have it. Okay. Okay. So if we tally up no games, we should get no search result or no tallies, or a tally of 0. That's maybe a better definition. There we go. What is the problem still? Don't use semicolons. It's not a semicolon. Don't use this in the value world, only in a type world. So this I would expect to, yes, compile, but this is not happy. Let's just make it compile and make the test passed at the same time. And actually this is what we would like. I would like to select this and run it, but then we would have to load fact into the REPL, or we can just comment that out just for now. So now we're back doing REPL driven development. Or at least I expected we were doing REPL driven development. What's the problem? Okay, test is not defined. That is true. And that we do need. I'm gonna grab both xunit and unquote. I'm gonna open them both. Did that actually work? Alright, it's still loading. It's a bit slow today. Okay, it's responsive again, so I'm guessing everything is loaded in to the interactive window, and now we can run, or at least we can run this test if we select this method. Yeah, it's green. Okay. I'm shooting through or jumping through a lot of hoops to not have to run my tests, because in Visual Studio they're really slow. It would be better to just switch to Rider immediately. But anyways, probably if I run everything, it's green. It's just a bit slower, the feedback loop. But we're almost there. Let's write some more cases. And if someone comes up with a name like a module name for tallying up numbers, I'm still not sure what I would call this, or where I would put these things like this type and this function. This is okay. Just for experiment, I'm gonna open Rider, because we're not explicitly using the interactive window right now, and I'm gonna build and run these tests to see how much faster it is. Meanwhile, let's think of the next case. So we have a case for no games. Let's have the next obvious small step forward, which is one game. An empty collection was a better name for this test. A collection is consisting of a single game. So a single game, that should be a search result, right? What does a search result look like again? Am I breaking everything again by trying to open two IDEs at the same time? Yes. My laptop is way past its due date. Yeah, that was a mistake. Let me kill it. I'll do the whole Rider versus Visual Studio thing offline for next time. Let's just kill it. Sorry, still like you do, but my laptop doesn't. Okay, search results. Yeah, that's exactly it. So we have a title and a list of playtimes. Playtimes are a category and a option of a decimal. Now that I see this and what we want to do with it, maybe that wasn't the best way of representing this. Let's see how we fill this up. Is it a small change? Playtimes. We go over the divs. And every div we parse. Okay. If we were to change this later on, yeah, it's a small step. It would be like an extra step below here to parse this in a more structured type than just a list. But for now, that's not what we're working on. We're working on the tallying. So let's just do the tallying. I'm just gonna make a nonsense game with playtimes. Playtimes should have something. What's the problem here? Tally, let's give it an explicit type right now. Don't you know about search results? No, you don't. Okay. It's in the parsing module. There we go. I would expect this to compile actually. Playtime. Come on, what was your definition again? Playtimes, yeah. I'm sorry, what's the problem here? Search result does not contain a label playtimes. But if I go to this, it's saying that it does have a label playtimes. With a big T, okay, that's the problem. Whew. There we go. And somehow I think my formatter again screwed me over here and broke something that used to work. Okay, there we go. At least everything compiles again. And we should be able to select this code, send it to the REPL to have. Okay, we still need to open up module. I'm also going to open up the module inside the tests because this is something I don't typically see in code bases. So I'm just going to do that right here, right before where we will extract this module in a second. So let's open how long to be parsing. And now we have, like, don't need a fully qualified name. And yeah, there we go. So we should be able to run everything now, I'm guessing. Did I not just send this thing to the REPL? Ah, it needs some dependencies. I should just do this and load everything in the REPL. I'm sorry. I have the feeling it's worse. Last week, Visual Studio was bad, but not unbearable. Today, it is unbearably slow. Cool. So this still works, yes. And this fails. No, it doesn't fail because we have, like, it's not the correct test case yet. So we need a list of playtimes, and playtimes are tuples. So if we make a single tuple, that should still compile. What is the playtime again? Can I click on it? Category is main story, main extras, or completionist. So let's just do a main story. And for that we have 12 hours. Indentation matters in F#. Indentation matters a lot in F#. Come on. Okay. And hitting save will format the code. Okay. So we need main story, main extras. I don't like that I modeled this as a list, so that's maybe something to fix later. Because entries that we expect in that list can turn out to not be there, stuff like that. So maybe we'll have to rethink that. So instead of doing it right now, I'm gonna put it on my test list or my task list. Return playtimes, model playtimes, no more list of. That's enough for me to remember what I want to do. Yeah, so let's keep it simple. We have 1, 2, and 3 hours. We have some option types in there, which is when was the case? Oh yeah, that could happen actually when you have a video game that's brand spanking new and people lock their playtimes, but for example, there's no completionist logs and yet. So it could be that you have a main story, a main and extras, and a completionist, but the completionist is empty. I do think right now that list always contains the 3, so it makes no sense to model this as a list, because we know it has to be 3 elements and exactly 3 elements long, and it will always be 3 elements long, or we have a bug in our code, or the API has some breaking changes. So list is a bad design decision there, retrospective. Okay, now it should fail because we hard code 000. Sorry, we need to update the expected values. So yeah, it's just exactly the same. Cool. And what will change in the next test is we'll have multiple playtimes, and then the edge cases like missing completionist logs, that will be the third phase. But I think like in the next implementation step, we could do like something hacky and make it pass really quickly by looking at the list length, and if there's something in it, we take the first, or otherwise we take this default. But actually, in the world of collection functions, it makes a lot more sense in my head to just do the correct thing from the start, which is doing a fold over this list and summing everything up. So let's just go with that. There is 2 types of aggregating functions. One is called fold, or let's first look at the other one, reduce. A reduce takes a function and a list, and the function takes 2 elements and returns an element of the same type. So if you want to add up every element in a list, a reduce is perfect, but reduce does not work on empty lists, because it like takes the first value as the starting value and then applies that function you provide on every subsequent value. And if you don't provide it with anything in the list, or when the list is empty, it doesn't know what to return. Fold is exactly the same, but you give it a initial value. So if you look at the function type, it's almost the same, except this state thing, which is providing the initial value of your accumulator, or like the thing you want to aggregate. So I think a fold will fit in nicely here. Yeah, I'm just going to write a function called folder, which takes the current result. Is it first the state, then the element? Yeah. So it takes the current tally, yes, and the next search result, and it should return a new tally, but let's just have it return the original value. Let's copy paste this, because this is actually the initial value, and that should be the, I'm just gonna put it in a variable real quickly to make it super clear. Oh, the formatter will shoot me again if I don't do this. There we go. So folder and initial value over the list of results. Yeah, I think that actually lines up all the types nicely. Yeah, there we go. How will we implement this folder function? Yeah, just updating the tally. So that will be the update record syntax. So we will return the tally, but we'll update every field. So actually, we don't need to update record syntax. We can just do this. The main story is tally.mainStory plus something. Okay, yeah, and if I want to do this, I'm like going back on my decision. I do want to use the with syntax, because if you don't use the with syntax, you have to write out your entire thing in one go. And if you use with syntax, you can work on property per property. So in the end, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, especially not when it's done. But if you're doing like test-driven development or writing your algorithms incrementally with, you can focus on one thing at a time. You can take smaller steps, and many more smaller steps is one of the few heuristics, or one of the few rules that always make sense in software development. Take a lot of steps and take smaller steps. I didn't come up with this. This is a heuristic from Paul Hill, a very good agile coach if you're interested in stuff like that. But we're drifting off again. So we are writing a fold with an initial value and a folder function, and we're adding up all the numbers. So instead of adding up just one for every game. We should use what we have in the search result. And this is where our modeling or decision to model it as a list is a bit painful, because we need to dig into a list, and we can have like non-existent entries here. We know they won't, but on a type level, it can fail, or on a type checking level, it can theoretically fail. A search result is a... What is a search result actually? What does it look like? Oh, it's this thing, but a title and playtimes. So we should have search result dot playtimes, and then our compiler will figure out it's a search result. Yes, cool. And playtimes are tuples. It's... If you give it a type alias like I did, you don't see the actual structure of the type, and you have to go look. That's a bit of a shame. So it's a category and a possible, or an option of a decimal. So it's a category and possibly a value. And if the category is main story, then we have the main story entry. So let's call this main. And that should always return something, but it's an option, or it's like a tuple containing an option. I don't think... Oh yeah, I have games in my collection that have like a problem here. I have this on the board already, like handle this case, so I'm not gonna worry about it right now, and I'm gonna... When writing this test, I'm gonna assume we will have playtimes in every category, period. And let's worry about the edge case later. So value here is an option of a decimal, but we're gonna just... if it is... I'm like making a decision. Should we crash so we don't forget, or should we like give it a default value of 0 and get along with it? It's on our official task board, so I don't mind using the hack, so at least our program doesn't crash when we run it end to end. So main is a category and main playtime. And this we can use in here if we do like dot value. It's a very bad practice when using option types, but again, we'll fix it later. I don't like seeing it, so I'm gonna do something else. Yeah, let's do something else. Let's extract the value from the option, and if nothing is there, it just act as if that game has like instantaneous playtimes as a value of 0. So this is a big to do. Missing playtimes. I think it makes sense to first do the redesign of the types, like not a list, but a more structured type, and then handling the options more gracefully than just like acting like, oh, this game takes no time to complete at all. Sorry, I was alt-tabbing, but I was alt-tabbing into the wrong window. We can do this for all categories. I'm just gonna copy paste 2 times. So for main story, for main extras, and for completionists. And again here. And completionists. And we can do the duplication here as well. Almost there. Main extras and completionists. I'm thinking like, I typically use the rule of 3 when refactoring. If I have to do something 3 times, it's time to extract something. And this is already hitting 3, so maybe it would make sense. But because we will be reworking this in like an hour or like in 10 seconds, I don't mind that much. And I don't like how my formatter is not consistent. It's like putting 2 of the 3 cases on new lines, and the 3rd case it just whoop, puts on the 1st line. Where's my symmetry? Anyhow, is this correct? Let's go over it because we copy pasted and I was talking at the same time. That is not a or actually our unit test will tell us whether or not we implemented this correctly. So I'm just gonna select everything. There is a warning here. That's probably because type inference does not know enough. That seems to work actually. So I'm gonna run them officially by running my XUnit tests. And actually this was the implementation for more than one game, so I think we're almost done, except for that little remark about the option. No, not the option, about the, yeah, about the option. So we are getting really, really close to finishing our little app. For new people, I was doing this because I wanted to play with .NET 6 or F# 6 at least, and the new Visual Studio. Up until now, it has been as expected. As expected, in the case that Visual Studio still is not the best IDE for F# development. Okay, so multiple games. And let's put in another game, which is this little record. Can I just plop it in? Come on, formatting. And the auto formatting and it works great when it works, and when it doesn't work, you have to help it a lot to figure out what you want to do. Okay, there we go. So we have another game, and it's not 1, 2, 3, but for example, 10, 11, 12. No, let's make it 100 to see possible bugs better. So what should these playtimes tally up to? 101, 202, 303. 202 and 303. This is a bit like last time when I had these like strings and I put in stuff to help me when a test fails to make sense of the output instead of like a random thing like a real video game title. This is the same as that I'm doing here. I'm like providing random values, but they somehow make sense, being that when you see a number like 200 or 202 in your test output, when you look at this, it makes sense like, oh, it's probably about this record here and this record here. If you use random variables, you have to do the math in your head every time. And of course, I don't mind doing math, but if I'm working 8 hours a day on Codebases, I like to minimize the math I have to do. So it makes sense to take random values, or like not necessarily realistic values, or values you fetch from real experiences, or at least not in my unit tests. I like to have them explain themselves more than just like realism. I use different kinds of tests for realism. Okay, everything is green, I think. Everything except that option problem we have. I think this function might actually work for our entire video game library. So I'm just gonna move this to a new module, which I still have no name for. Something that does tallying. I'm just gonna call the module tally as well. Don't like having like the type repeat. We have a module name and a type name and a function name with the same name. That's smelly. Or we had 3 opportunities to name something and we only use 1. We can do better, but not right now. IDE is helping me out here, saying that your defined value and you're not really using it. They are correct. Let's just go with the idiomatic approach and call that variable underscore. Sorry. That's like the thing you see when you don't care about a value. And let's, yeah, also the open statement, because we use it in the new tally module. Cool. This is moved to the module, so in our test we can just get rid of the work in progress and point to And again, I would totally do this with automated refactorings if I had them, but ReSharper in Visual Studio 22 doesn't seem to have like extract module or extract variable even. JetBrains Writer does, but Visual Studio not yet. How long to beat parsing? Let's open it up as well. And I noticed that we haven't put our tests into a separate module. You don't have to do it, but I like to do it for the output you see here. So all your tests are nested hierarchically. If you want to run all your scrubbing tests or all your tallying tests, you can if you put them in a module. Everything should compile and the tests should work on the new code. Yes, yes, yes. Tally is coming from the tally module. Yeah, okay. We've been working on this problem for an hour now. Okay, so at least the function works as designed. I'm gonna commit this quickly. Telling out playtimes, that's enough of a comment for me. Should we run this against the real collection? We know it's not correct yet. It'll be like a lower bound of the estimated time we played video games because of this zero nullable option, sorry, because of these options. But I'm already curious about whether or not this will work for every game in our collection, because I made some assumptions about that list thing. Let's see if those assumptions hold now. So these are all the matches. Let's just quickly add them up. It'll be a spoiler because that's like the big, whoa, how many hours did I play video games? I hope I still am motivated enough to finish this streaming series on, on this app once I know roughly how many hours I wasted. So total times is matches, and let's grab the second part, which is the search result, yes. And let's tally them up. And we should open, no, why does tally not work? Oh, it has to be a list, okay. Actually, it makes no sense. Let's go to that function and have it accept sequences instead of lists. And also do a sequence.fold instead of a list.fold. And I should run my unit tests in the normal world, but because they take that long, I know that this didn't break anything. It's like famous last words, I know. So I completed this many games. You spent X hours playing video games. Whoa. And let's just print them out. And it's not a digit, it's a collection of 3 things. So let's just print out the entire object, or the entire records. So you completed this many games, you spent. And now that I think about it, we have string interpolation in C#, but also in F#. You lose a bit of an extra place to type check, but I've never had type checking issues in a string. Is this not how you do string interpolation in C#? Ah, the IDE syntax highlighting was just a bit slower. Yeah, I think we can run this. It'll take a while because our collection is pretty big. We could maybe limit our collection to 10 games. Oh yeah, maybe let's do that. Then it won't be a spoiler. It will be just like a little sampling of a small part of the collection. So let's kill this before we see the spoiler. Okay, and let's run our app for 10 games. We have our hard-coded whitelist, yeah. And now that I see this, that's also something I want to clean up in the future. Extract the whitelist to a file or something. Move whitelist out of the code base. in the age of continuous delivery and changing a line of code and pushing it to production, like the delay used to be months or years for some organizations. If you do continuous delivery, the difference of having something in a config file versus having something in C# is not that huge anymore. But still, I like my data, something that is definitely data, like these whitelists. I do like them in separate files and not as like in the code. So this works for 10 games in our collection. And this is already tallying up to 300 hours. Oh, jeez. That's a lot. Cool. I think this is a good point, stable resting point to call it quits for today. So app works for 10 games. That's half. Complete playtimes. Yay. Always celebrate your wins, people. Always celebrate the little wins. Or the big wins if you have them. So, recap of what we did today. We moved some like playing around code from the REPL to actual production code. And then we started looking at how to actually tally up the numbers with this tally.tally.tally thing. Which was a basic fold over the list. And then we noticed that we have some edge cases to take care of, but I like taking small steps and prove value, or like prove my assumptions and my ideas to validate them in the real world, which is what we did now for 10 video games. Looks great. So on the next stream, during next session, we'll do this thing first and maybe rework the structure. No more list off, yeah. It's maybe something even to do before. This is something that can go because it's the same thing. And moving the whitelist out, yeah. And then I want to write some broadly scoped unit tests because I want to play around with hexagonal architecture and the way I write unit tests in typical C# code bases. But I want to apply those principles on an F# code base to see whether or not it's a good match, or whether or not it makes sense in the functional programming world. So yeah, I like where this is heading. We're almost done. I think in a session or two from now, we'll be feature complete and we'll finally know how many hours I spent playing video games. I hope you enjoyed the live coding in F#, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.